lo ha girato adesso perché crede che la libertà di stampa sia minacciata? Grazie.
Well, you know, a free press, the free press are the guardians of democracy. That's what I was raised to believe, and it's what I find to be the incontrovertible truth. But when you look back at 1971, when Richard Nixon, President Nixon, tried through the courts to deny the free press the right to publish these stories of the Pentagon Papers, and took it all the way to the Supreme Court. The lower court, or the appellate court, actually found for the president and did stop the New York Times from publishing for a number of days. That was the first time that had happened since the American Civil War. I felt that the free press is under attack again today. The relevance of the story in 1971 and the story that I read in Liz Hanna and Josh Singer's script in 2017, interesting 1771, the pendulum swing, and we're right back to where we were, perhaps worse today than 1971.
La libertà di stampa, e questo fa sì che ci sia una rilevanza assoluta tra quei fatti del 1971, e se invertiamo un attimo il pendolo, io la storia l'ho scoperta grazie alla sceneggiatura di Lisanna e di Josh Singer proprio nel 1917, quindi questa inversione di numeri è assolutamente attuale.
L'impatto sulla stampa americana.
Is that for me or is that for...
Per me la domanda?
We received tremendous support from the American press. Obviously, you know, the film supports a beleaguered press that is, you know, certainly withstanding a lot of attacks from the administration, a lot of disinformation, a lot of abusive labels like fake news if a story doesn't please the president. But I think the press truly embraced the film not just because of the political message or the defense of a free press that the film is about, but they embraced the film because it's of the strength of Katharine Graham and the amazing journey of that character, that real-life character that Meryl Streep so absolutely brilliantly portrays in a woman who is at the top of her profession, but cannot find her own voice in a world of men, in a boardroom of men, in just in just a society of men. Here was a woman who had every reason and every right to tell him off, tell him exactly what she felt, and she had trouble finding her voice until a very crucial moment. And I think the majority of the press in our country has really found that to be the emotional core of the story. And the Ben Bradley-Katharine Graham relationship, dynamic that I've not experienced before as a director of any movie. I've never had this kind of a strong male-female relationship in any of my films until now. And thank God it happened on Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep's watch. I was very lucky.
In all fairness, the New York Times was called the New York Times.
Da parte della stampa,
the girls asked to dance.
In realtà non abbiamo mai lavorato insieme perché ai vecchi tempi alle ragazze veniva chiesto sempre se volevano, se accettavano di ballare.
I've always had a tough time asking girls to dance.
Io ho sempre fatto fatica a invitare le ragazze a ballare.
All those other films that I made with Steven, sooner or later the day would come on the set, we would say, man, I wish Meryl Streep was in this movie.
Oh, yeah, right. In tutti gli altri film in cui io ho lavorato con Steven Spielberg, prima o poi arrivava sempre quel giorno in cui sul set dicevamo mannaggia, vorremmo proprio che Meryl Streep fosse qui con noi sul set. E lei sì, è vero, vabbè.
But Nora Ephron is sort of who brought us together. I didn't know Tom really, but they were very, very close friends. Nora and I were very close friends. And Tom lives in California, I live in New York. And so we had not really encountered each other until we worked together. And good for the film. But Nora was an inspiration on many levels. We so miss her. Wish she were here to be commenting to see the film, for one thing, and to be commenting on the present moment in time, because there would be nobody who would make it funnier or more, who could be more acerbic, should she choose. We miss her.
Miss her.
Ci ha portato a lavorare insieme. Io in realtà Tom non lo conoscevo bene, però lui e Nora erano proprio carissimi amici, così come eravamo io e Nora delle carissime amiche, anche perché poi Tom vive in California, io vivo a New York, ed è stato grazie a lei che abbiamo avuto l'opportunità di lavorare insieme e di conoscerci. E devo dire che poi è stato tutto sommato anche positivo il fatto di poterci conoscere sul set, di poterci conoscere lavorando insieme. E Nora è stata una grandissima fonte di ispirazione, e tra l'altro mi piacerebbe molto, sarei molto felice se lei potesse essere qui a commentare questo film e a commentare quello che è il momento attuale, il momento che stiamo vivendo, perché credo che sicuramente ci sarebbe nessuno che potrebbe farlo in maniera più divertente ma anche più pungente di come lo avrebbe potuto, lo potrebbe fare lei, di poi fondamentalmente quello di cui le donne sono capaci di fare.
Del suo personaggio e cosa la figura di Katharine Graham può insegnare alle donne che oggi si battono per avere rispetto e parità. Grazie.
Character. Well, first of all, this script was written by the first version of the script was written by Liz Hannah. It was bought by Amy Pascal 6 days before the election. We thought it would be a nostalgic look back at how far we've come as women. And with a female president, everyone thought this would happen. And then the election happened. And then the increased, what do you say, hostility to a free press, and an increased aggression against women, exhibited at the very top of our government. So it became a story of how far we have not come. Probably I should shut up.
Ben Bradley was, you're going to do this in tandem with me. I'm not going to, you're going to say it right out. Ready? Are you ready to go? The great Ben Bradley was a very competitive man. Go.
Il grande Ben Bradley era un uomo molto competitivo.
He was a beast. He had a great passion for getting not just a story, but the story.
Aveva una grande passione, una grande determinazione ad avere non una storia qualsivoglia, ma la storia.
In June of 1971, the Washington Post was in a lockstep competition with the Washington Star, which was at the time the #1 paper in Washington, D.C.
Nel giugno 1971 il Washington Post era praticamente in competizione con quasi testa a testa con il Washington Star, che era all'epoca il quotidiano #1 a Washington D.C.
The idea that the New York Times would have a story that the Washington Post did not have was something that kept Ben Bradley awake at night. He was incensed by this reality.
E l'idea che il New York Times potesse avere una storia che invece il Washington Post non aveva teneva a sveglio Ben Bradley la notte, perché questa cosa lo faceva impazzire.
One of the most fun scenes was in the boardroom when they are all reading the reports of the New York Times, and Ben Bradley says,
E una delle scene più divertenti, quando sono nella sala del consiglio e stanno leggendo i rapporti del New York Times e gli articoli del New York Times, Ben Bradley dice:
We're sucking hind tit in our own backyard.
Praticamente siamo noi, siamo gli ultimi e siamo gli ultimi a casa nostra.
We understand what that means, Italian people? Do we know? Can we understand?
Capite
Yes, okay, so we're on top of
essere
that.
secondi a casa propria?
That was a great fun scene to get, because right there was all the passion as well as the challenge that was left for the rest of the film.
E questa è stata una scena fantastica, anche perché lì c'era tutta la passione, ma anche questo senso, la percezione appunto della sfida, che poi è quella che guida tutto il resto del film.
Even if you're putting out a newspaper that you give away for free, you don't want to be number 2.
Anche se sei direttore di un giornale che è gratuito, non puoi arrivare secondo.
About courage. This film really originated with the courage of Daniel Ellsberg, who was a person very closely tied in, worked for the State Department, worked for the Rand Corporation. He was a journalist, soldier. He decided to really defy the Espionage Act and steal state secrets. Took them to Neil Sheehan at the New York Times, who risked everything, along with his editors, to publish. 3 days they published this incredibly upsetting to the American audience papers, which told them that their government had been lying through 4 administrations, and that Richard Nixon was suppressing this revelation. And then, is that? I want to do it like Tom did it.
What do you do? You go blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I lose my train of thought much more quickly. There were many acts of courage. Came to the Washington Post, who was really at this time not only number 2 paper in Washington, but they were the little sister to the New York Times. New York Times was the eminence grise, you know. And it fell to a woman at that time. No one here is old enough to remember, but 1971, there were very, very few women reporters. Every woman here would be not in the room. When you say that the newsroom was accurately depicted in our film, it was all white and all men in terms of reporters. There were secretaries.